Hey,
How's it going?
very good. How are you?
Good. By the way, lesson learned. So when people do this, they usually like these like links days in advance so they can put them in their calendar. So this way it pops up in their Microsoft Outlook and then they can just click on it. That's why, because you've been contacting me through Instagram, which I hardly check during the day.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if like things were coming or not, or
Oh, I'm not that sophisticated.
it's not a
Not yet.
sophistication thing. It's a preparatory thing, and you are disciplined in preparatory. So
I am, and even as I got everything set here in terms of the set and the lighting and this and that and that, I had to use a different email because this is for my Zoom classes, and I forgot to copy your email to this
oh
one.
no. Okay.
That's why it's a few minutes late. But listen, we're
We're
here. We're
here.
doing this. Thank
That's
you. First of all, I want to thank you very much for doing this. I know your time is really valuable, so it's not lost on me on how valuable your time is, and I'm very appreciative that you can be able to do this for me
it's my
with
pleasure.
me.
And my time is no more valuable than yours. I mean, it's all equal.
We'll see.
It's true.
Second thing is, you have a libation.
I do. I have a delicious ginger tea.
Good, because I don't. This is old. This is from like last weekend. I'm not. It's 9:30 in the morning. I'm not going to drink beer.
Yeah, exactly.
But usually you guys have libations, so thought I'd
It's
join the
totally,
club.
yeah, I know. At 9:30 in the morning on a school day, ginger tea is as good as it's going to get.
I got espresso.
Cheers. Hmm.
Cheers,
Gingery.
espresso. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to do this is that when we were at the Golden Bullet Award, you started a story about how you went to Japan and learned nunchucks from a karate master, a nunchuck master, and that really intrigued me. And we didn't really have enough time to get into it. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear more of that story. So this is a good excuse to get that done. But also, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. I've been doing Fujapai Kung Fu for 28 years. Oof. Ouch. Yeah, it just sounds like a long
Oh,
time. And, I'm teaching it now. And so, martial arts has been such a huge part of my life. It's everything good in my life, including meeting my wife and everything, has come from indirectly or directly from martial arts. Everything bad in my life has come from not doing martial arts or from some other direction. So I want to inspire people to, give martial arts a try, because it's brought so much value to our lives. I wanted to hopefully inspire the rest of the Bond community to do something. I mean, it's one of the things Bond does.
that's right. No, it
Yeah.
does. And yeah, it's interesting too, because I think the little snippet I told you was more of kind of like a moment in time and a very long journey, which kind of started with me when I was young, and I mean very young, where and it's going to sound like a sad sack story, but I was sort of raised like a veal in my house, meaning I didn't go outdoors a lot. When I went outdoors, it was just to play with like Star Wars action figures and GI Joes in the mud. Because of where my house was located, I didn't have any neighbors that were kids, so I didn't play with a group of kids. I would basically play with my imagination. So a lot of what I did physically and even mentally was about pretending that others were there or pretending that I was the characters manifested in these toys. So I wasn't an athletic individual. And then as I got older, and I'm talking maybe 12, 13 years old, I was a very soft child, if you know what I mean. Um, I didn't really know how to move, and I became fascinated. Not that I was bullied, but like anybody, you have your little stressful moments. I was very focused on the whole Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris world, and I was I was of the age when that was really hot. You know, the whole idea of ninjas and Bruce Lee in general. And I started to study it and watch the movies, and I became enamored with Jeet Kune Do. You know, the whole art of no art and the philosophies behind it, even at that young age. And so I started my journey of martial arts self-teaching myself. And it did start with weaponry, blow darts, shurikens, joe staff, um, tri-staffs, and nunchucks.
Where did you get this stuff?
Um,
Like,
I I purchased it, you know, at different outlet centers and um, yeah, a myriad of different places where I could just go and purchase these and watch movies and practice how to do that. And nunchucks, I would probably practice every single day,
this is
slowly
before any formal, instruction.
before any formal instruction. And then as I got a little bit older, you know, maybe like 16 to 18, then I went for the formal instruction. And the formal instruction included taking Tang Soo, Korean martial art. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Focused more on movement. You know, a lot of Tung Sudo is the lower GI, you know, legs kicking, things like that. And then on top of that, I just kept the nunchucks going, even though that they weren't a huge part of my formal training. The Japan trip was an exchange program. And interestingly enough, like everybody plays baseball here, everybody used nunchucks in this place. So, you know, it was almost like finding friends that did what I did and did what I loved. And I learned all types of new fancy tricks and, you know, different types of nunchucks. And to this day, when I want to center myself and I want to do something that's cardiovascular but fun, I pick up my nunchucks.
Yeah.
That's a long diatribe on the world for me.
So go back a little bit. How did you get to Japan? Where did you stay? How did you find this teacher? Just a little bit more of that story because it's really fat because it has to do with also travel and
Yeah,
having an adventure, which is what this channel is all about.
I was very
Uh,
lucky
I
in
want to hear
that
more
regard.
about that journey about to
Yeah,
Japan.
yeah. My father was the United States president of Nissan and Datsun Industrial Equipment. So all the equipment like cranes and pallet trucks and forklifts, he was actually the president over the United States for Nissan and Datsun. So he had to go to Japan a lot. One of the things that these top executives did was they would do an exchange program. So my brother, my sister, they're all older than me. They were able to go to Japan and stay with a family there. And then family in Japan would come and stay in the United States, and there'd be an exchange program. So it was my turn. And, you know,
Brilliant.
one of the things that I really glom onto was my family. And my family had an individual there who practiced nunchucks on a regular basis and
Wow.
did it for a matter of therapy. And we were, you know, maybe a few hours outside of Tokyo,
Mhm.
and not in the city. So I wasn't like sort of quote unquote brought up in the cityscape, but everybody in, you know, some of the surrounding areas, they focused on the martial arts. It was very ordinary. Here, as you know, it was a little bit unique. Like if you said you were in the martial arts, people were like, "Ooh, what are you, a
Yeah.
badass? You know, or
Yeah.
you are a weapon? Who do you think you are?" There is just like, well, of course you practice martial arts. It's part of the curriculum.
Oh, that's brilliant. So how was Japan? I mean, that was such a culture shock.
Culture shock. Two biggest culture shocks. Number one, going to baseball games and eating fish instead of hot dogs. That was the funniest. Um, the other thing that was amazing was little barbaric things that I was doing to them. So the family, they served grapes one day, and I just started eating the grapes because that's what you do. You just start eating the grapes. They were peeling the grapes and leaving the peels on a plate. And they looked at me like I was a barbarian. And then I just took the plate of skins and just shoved it in my mouth. And so they basically called me a barbarian. The fact that I drank Coca-Cola back then, I was a barbarian. So they served me Coca-Cola breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it
Mm.
was Yeah, it was the weird acclimation, but I loved it. I loved the people,
Yeah,
the food, everything about it, really.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, you still do the nunchucks to this day.
Yes,
Still carries into your lifestyle. You still practice that. Um, so like to this day, what have you gained from that? What kind of I mean, do you still practice something? Did you learn any of the philosophies? Some of those philosophies seep into your own philosophy?
absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, there's physical and philosophical, mental things that I still take away and still apply. The philosophical things, and again, I go back to Bruce Lee's teaching of, the simplicity of things, the whole idea of like, the whole, it's like a finger pointing away to the moon, but don't stare at the finger or you'll miss all that heavenly glory. Yeah, whack, exactly. And some of I learned from films, from some from books, some from reading,
Yeah.
The Art of Jeet Kune Do, and some philosophy. So my teacher in Tang Soo Do hardly said a word. I wish they were the type of teacher that would say, "All right, folks, we're going to talk about some philosophy, then we're going to get into, the kicking and screaming."
Was he
Um,
Korean?
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was a language barrier, of course, but he would come over to you. And for example, if he wanted to, correct something, because I wasn't pulling my fist back into the sternum correct way, or when I would punch, I would punch to break my wrist. You punch like this, you lock, right. Instead of like saying, David, you're going to break your wrist, instead of doing this, do this, he would come over and take two of his hands and go whack and smack my wrist down like that and not say a thing. So I didn't get a lot of philosophies from him. I got a lot of like bruises and abuse.
Yeah.
But so the philosophies I learned elsewhere, and I still practice it today. Calmness. I have a lot of people at work say when things are exploding and clients are screaming, how can you be so calm? Where is that coming from? A lot of that uh, sort of therapy, that Zen moment, if you will, comes from doing that back then. I could still be a lot better. I don't practice a lot of that purposely, but I can tell that I've taken a lot of those teachings. And then the
Mhm.
physicality of movement, the whole idea of being very fluid. I see these people when they move, even when as strange as it is, like walking and falling off of a sidewalk and not rolling your heel because you had that fluidity of movement. I still retain that fluidity of movement even at 56, which
Mm,
helps flexibility. That's another one.
mhm,
And just the way I move through life.
mm, mm. And this is something that you're going to practice till
So they put me in
forever.
the ground
Yeah.
or they cremate me or fly me to the moon.
So all these things, what do you think other people can gain from it?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, first of all, I think there's some lessons to be learned here in my approach. Like I did a study. Let me talk about my reasons of why. So I think
Yeah,
those are important because people need to start there. My
exactly.
reasons of why have changed over time. Why in the beginning was I was fascinated with the character of Bruce Lee, like I'm fascinated with the character of James
Hmm.
Bond. So
Hmm.
then it was a study of a character and adopting some of the traits of a character.
Yeah.
Then it turned into getting in shape, using the martial arts to get into shape and learn to defend myself. Then it morphed into relaxation and
Mm,
style and philosophy. And
mm,
today it's an amalgamation of all of those.
mhm,
Like you said, James Bond is very adept at hand-to-hand combat. He doesn't
mhm,
need to use a gun. He uses
mm,
his wits, quite
mhm.
frankly, to avoid fighting at all. That's a part of
Yeah,
the martial arts. I think people
yeah,
think martial arts is about breaking bones
yeah,
and breaking wood, and it's so much more than that, which you could wax poetic about.
yeah,
So I think people need to find the why of why
yeah,
they want to embark on this. I mean, why did they click this video?
yeah.
That's an important start.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Finding the why is very important. I mean, my whys were multiple as well. I was bullied as a kid. I was small.
Oh,
Most also, but as I got older, I don't really like gyms that much.
oh, I hate them.
And I love learning something new. Like one of the dumbest things I just started was to judo.
Oh,
And the first day, I already injured myself.
Yeah,
And then
which
I find out
disciplines have you practiced?
what?
Which disciplines have you practiced?
When I was a kid, I did first Taekwondo. So I know, Tang Sudo is
Very
related.
close.
Yeah, very close, very close. And then in college, I did judo for about a summer because I wanted to learn how to fall because I was going to do some stunt work for a film.
Wow.
Then I got into karate, Shotokan karate. It was on the fencing team in college. And but through the entire time, I always, and going back to Bruce Lee and also Jackie Chan was a big influence of mine back in the
Yeah.
day. I wanted to do kung fu. And I wanted to do kung fu specifically because I knew that there was a meditative aspect to it. Now, I grew up with, anxiety issues, and, and that was another way of handling my anxiety issues as well. And I knew that the kung fu would have that meditative aspect and this mindfulness aspect as well. And yeah, it did, and it worked, and it helps a lot.
I love
It's
that. Yeah, you're so dimensional like that. It's interesting too. When I first met you, I was fascinated, obviously, by your vocation and what you've done. Um, if you don't mind me asking you a question as
sure.
well, so we make this quid pro quo. I'm always fascinated. I mean, I know that you use a lot of the philosophical teachings in your everyday life, the more meditative aspects. Have you ever had to use the more physical manifestations of martial arts in your life?
So when I was a kid, yes, I was beat up a lot. I mean,
Wow.
literally once or twice a week, I was just
Oh
attacked,
my God.
assaulted. No, no joke. And one day I had been doing the Taekwondo. A kid came at me. I did a spinning back kick, never got touched again.
That's
Never
amazing.
got touched again. But that was middle school. I still didn't want to go beyond with these people into high school. So I went to a different high school. I went to high school in New York City. I went to high school in New York City in the 80s to be safe. That's the irony. That's a
No,
whole
said
other
nobody
story.
ever.
The only other thing that I think came close was about 15 years ago. I was walking down with a girlfriend prior to my current wife. Down a dark New York City street. Stupid move. I grew up there. I should have known better. We were being followed. At least I thought we were being followed. I crossed the street. That guy crosses the street. We cross the
Oh,
street again. He crosses the street again. So I know we're being followed. I don't want the girl that I was with to really worry or be upset. So I'm doing all these sort of stealthy things to try to figure out, and not alert her to what's going on.
right.
We start walking down the street. I can see the guy in reflections and stuff getting closer and closer and closer. And then around 10, 15 feet away from me, I literally just turn around like that and just
Yeah.
stare him down. He just walks away.
Wow. So he was probably prepared to do
Oh yeah.
something.
Oh, absolutely. He was getting close. I could feel him getting closer and closer and closer. There was no doubt. He was
It is a
trying to
feeling,
sneak
by
up
the
on
way.
me. What?
I think martial arts and the practice of it and just even mindfulness and awareness that it teaches you does give you almost like a spidey sense of
Mm.
these different things. And I got to tell you, I'm happy to report I've never had to use anything or any
I
teachings,
was
and I
about to
don't.
ask you.
Yeah, no, but I have utilized it and I have to explain how. So, in my line of business, but also just being in the position that I'm in, with the companies I've been with, these leadership positions, very often it's nice to surprise people and to show them another facet of you other than being a corporate entity. And so, every now and then, probably at most of my companies, I, for one reason or another, pick up nunchucks or someone, has nunchucks, or I'll show them what I do with nunchucks and the mouths go like, wait, what? Like, what is this happening? Because I don't even look like the same person when I'm doing nunchucks. When I'm doing nunchucks, I go into this very weird state where I'm very conscious of every body part. And I can't explain it. If a scientist asked me to explain it or a reporter, I couldn't do it, but you'll understand. like things are moving so quickly, and many times both things with 1,600 pounds of pressure that could crack bones into dust.
Hmm.
And yet I'm not sitting there like looking like, oh my God, like yeah, I'm going to crack my head. I go into the state where I become, it's an extension of me. These nunchucks are me. They're just a
Hmm.
little bit longer and hinged. And so I'm so aware mentally, my brain is keeping track of where they are and what to do and how to move my knee and how to like separate my legs so they go between my legs without, hurting the wedding tackle, that I disappear for a moment. And so they've almost like not teased me, but they look at my face when I'm doing these nunchucks and they're like, you have the weirdest face on. Like you just don't even look like yourself. You're not smiling. You're just like, it's so intense. But it is. It's like this, I leave
Yeah, you're in
and
the
I
zone.
become in the state.
You're in that liminal state. You're in what they call, athletes call you're in the zone, you
I'm in
know.
the zone. Do you
Yeah,
get like that as well?
um very rarely. And one story is that I did get that way intensely, and thankfully it was during a competition.
Oh, nice. That's the best
I was
kind.
doing competition. I was doing forms and fighting, and this was in the form section. And I'm doing the form, and like you say, everything disappears. The crowd disappears. The room
Yes,
disappears. Everything. I don't hear anything. It's
you
just
don't.
me and the form, and that's it. And then I disappear, and it's just the form. And I remember like doing the form and then finishing, and then all of a sudden, slowly, I hear this kind of hum, and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder, and it's cheers, and people are clapping and going, ah! And my friend, who was also in the same kung fu school, he starts running towards me. He goes, "You won! You won! You won!" I'm like, "What? Huh? What happened?
Oh
What happened?" He goes,
my
"You
God.
won!" I'm like,
What
"What?"
a heroic moment. I love that.
Yeah, it was weird, and yeah, and to that extent, has it ever happened again? Not to that extent, but it does happen in little bits here and there when I'm doing the forms and
Yeah, it makes
very
it even more
focused.
special then. So I
Yeah.
have to ask then, because obviously you and I are very passionate about James Bond. I mean, how much of your passion in being attracted to the James Bond character involved the combat aspect versus kind of
Oh,
the style aspect?
listen, I came to you guys for the style aspect. I don't have any of the style aspect. That's why
Me
I
too.
go and watch. It's literally the reason why I started watching your videos, because I
Oh,
was dressing like I was in college with, rock and roll t-shirt. I was like hitting my 50s and I'm like, this is not a good look. And I've always watched James Bond films. I mean, I watch the James Bond films once a year, and I've done that for the past 20 years, you know,
wow.
where I watch all of them or almost all of them once a year. And so but to get to the style aspect, people like Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan to me seemed a little unattainable. They were
Mhm.
so up here with
Yeah.
style, and I was so down here. And it's so funny because my father, who's in the beauty business, he's up here with the style. Like
Oh,
he
wow.
dresses very similar to like when I look at Brosnan, I see aspects of my father's style. So I'm like, it's just
We got to
not
meet
me.
your dad.
Oh yeah, he's a very charming guy. But it wasn't me. And then when Craig came along, I was like, I can do that.
That's closer. Yeah.
That the clothes, the style, the combat aspect. He's the first James Bond ever to actually use a martial art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I was all about the action and the fighting and I mean, that's what I do. I love the skiing and the skydiving and you did the bungee jumping. I'm very jealous about
You're
that.
you're gonna do that though. You're kind of the man of action, literally. I
Yeah,
mean, you're
but
it's say yes to adventure, but when I
yeah,
think of action orientation, there's a handful of people I know, like Caleb from Commander Bond.
yeah,
Commando Bond. He's all about the guns. I think I feel like some of the most prolific people in the Bond community have a niche,
yeah,
and yours definitely you live the Bond
Yeah.
lifestyle in the action orientation of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. I was thinking like it's like what did Craig say? It wasn't. I used to play James Bond, but I wanted to
Oh,
be James
that's right. It
Bond.
wasn't being James Bond. That's something
Be James
else.
Bond. So I wanted to be originally back in the day. I wanted to be Indiana Jones.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
Not just dress it. I wanted to. So I actually did archaeology for a while. I was a professional archaeologist for a while.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and I wanted to be in these, so I, traveled to Greece and did digs and stuff like that. And then I wanted to be, you know, uh, these characters by doing the stuff that they do. Um, so that's, a reason why I took up a lot of the martial arts because it was action oriented and it's something I
Yeah.
could do. The dressing stuff didn't really latch onto it until I started getting older and started looking at myself in the mirror and saying, it's not a good look.
Look at you now. You look like your Bond from Spectre sitting in Solden saying it
Yeah, I
doesn't look
know.
good on a phone.
Eh, this is from you guys a little bit. So
Oh man.
and my wife thanks you too.
Oh, she's a sweetheart. Has she done this with martial arts as well?
I taught her, I started teaching her a Tai Chi sword form. She took 2 lessons. She was like, yeah, I got this. And that was it.
Listen, Tosca's not for everyone.
No. And that was it. She was done. She likes her Pilates and her yoga, and that's good. That's fine. Not a
Nice.
problem. But yeah, like I said, yeah, I love I always was and have the interest to prove it, but I always loved the action part of it. And that's what kind of propelled me into this.
Yeah.
And then, seeing the Craig films and knowing that he was doing, Krav Maga and Pankat Silat and all these other, and then eventually Kung Fu. Skyfall was the first time he ever does Kung Fu. When I found
Wow.
that out, I was really interested in that.
Well,
So yeah,
hopefully this video will motivate people to at least start whatever journey that they go on with martial arts because it's
yeah.
it's one worth taking and they'll never regret it.
Oh no. It's one of the reasons I just tried to go back to the judo, which I did as a kid, is you know, in the books. What did James Bond do? He was judo and boxing. I'm not going to take up boxing, I'm too old for that, but let's see what judo is like.
Exactly.
Back to that. I've done it before. Let's do it again. So anyway,
I'm excited.
I don't want to take up more of your time, David. This has been very enlightening and absolutely wonderful talk. And thank you for sharing your journey.
You are very welcome. Happy to do it, my friend, and let's get together soon for sure.
We got a gather all coming up.
We do. It's looking like April 20th, hopefully.
Okay. If
We'll hopefully be announcing soon.
All right, very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
And
brother.
yep, there we go. So that's David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience. Sorry, I had to do
Bond
that.
experience.
And Alex Thomas for Always Say Yes to Adventure.